So welcome guys to today's session is all about executive functioning skills and it's a Q&A. So the idea behind today's live is to create a little bit of space and a little bit of time for all of us to explore the idea of executive functioning skills, right? The idea of how can we use them, how can we nurture them, how can we come aware of them, and then how can we take situations in our day-to-day lives and how can we look at those situations from all of these different angles so that we can find a way that works for us to create, to transform, to change the meaning, to take different action, to overcome resistance or pain or fear. And the idea is to try to understand what they are and how they work. And P says, I'm struggling with negative self-talk as I move out of the condo I lived in when I deal with loss and trauma. Any advice for when I feel frozen and struggling to take action? So Peace, thank you for sharing. First of all, it's really nice to be vulnerable. When we are trying to look at our life from a different perspective, it's very scary. And I would like to honor first that change is frightening for us humans. Change is always difficult. It doesn't have to be always difficult, but it's always uncomfortable. It's always uncertain. And if real change is happening, we are going to step into the unknown for a period of time before something else unfolds. And there is this idea of the vacuum in the universe, right? They say that the universe doesn't like a vacuum. The universe doesn't like something that is empty. So it's always going to, something is going to flow into what you create, the emptiness that you create. But for you to be able to create a new flow in your life, there's something else that you have to let go of to create space. And then something else is going to flow in. And this happens physically speaking. If you are decluttering your home, if you are making physical change, normally when you open space, then something else is going to fill that space. Maybe that something is other things that are more relevant for you in your life. Maybe you use the space on a different way. Maybe using that emptiness in the space or that change in that physical space is going to change you inside and how you feel and what you do. So for you, Peace, first honoring that this change it's a big deal. It's a big change. And it is okay to feel strong emotions. It is okay to feel, I don't know what your feelings are. You say that you feel frozen, that you are struggling to take action. Most likely you are feeling overwhelmed. Most likely there is a lot of fear and uncertainty. And overwhelm and stress, because Peace, you are going through a very big transition in your life and maybe you don't know what's on the other side yet. And this is where having a good relationship with the uncertainty, with the unknown, can be very, very helpful. Especially when you are, as you mentioned, I have a lot of past grief coming up. What Of course, when something comes, normally it doesn't come alone. It always comes with some more stuff. And I think that there is a big change happening for you here. And when you make a big change, that's going to trigger a lot of stuff inside of you to bubble up, because maybe it's time to process that, to let that go, so that you can create space for something new. You can create a new story, you can create a new physical space, and you can maybe you are gonna be born into a new you, and an old part of you, an old version of you is gonna be staying in the past, staying in that condo that you are moving out of. So there is also a grieving process here of you grieving that part of you that maybe no longer will be with you, and it doesn't have to be something negative. So how can we use executive functioning skills in this specific example for you, Peace? I would say that there are a few that we can look at. Okay, and you are welcome, Peace. She says, thank you very much for the support and encouragement. Thank you so very much. Yeah, so let's try and break down different entry points, different angles to look at your situation, okay, peace? And this is going to serve to all of us, because many times when we are confronting a big change, we are going to feel similar emotions. So I will say that some of the first steps that you can take and some of the executive functioning skills that you can use and explore, one is metacognition. Okay, metacognition is your ability to become the observer of your life, to become the observer of your experience. Basically, is your capacity to create a little bit of space, and instead of you feeling 100% attached to what's happening in the now, you create a distance. You create a pause. It's like a timeout. And then you step out of that experience, of that emotion that you're feeling, of that. It's like you are, instead of you being walking in the forest, you step out of the forest and you look at the forest from the outside. Another analogy is you watching the movie of your life sitting on a couch, and you are the main character on the screen, but you are also watching yourself from the couch and you are not the one doing that. So that is going to give you separation and perspective, okay? And that's going to help you really understand, like, oh, what's happening? What am I feeling? Even you can even separate yourself from that character and you can say, what is she feeling? What is Peace feeling in this moment? What does Peace wants to do? What is she feeling? What does she feel needs to happen? How could she behave differently in this situation? Just to gain some perspective. Another executive functioning skill is emotional self-regulation. Emotional self-regulation is your ability to, in the middle of this emotional turmoil that you are in, how can you self-regulate? How can you ground? How can you find peace in the middle of that storm? How can you create a little bit of structure, even though you don't know what's happening, even though you don't know what's gonna unfold for you, but you can still, in the now, you can still breathe. You can still choose to believe that something good is gonna come out of here. You can choose to change the meaning of what's happening, and instead of it being negative or difficult, you can maybe transform it into, oh, what's gonna come out of this experience for me? What am I gonna learn? How am I gonna become a next version of myself in a way that feels more aligned with me? What am I gonna let go of? And what exciting thing is gonna come instead? So if you start thinking about that, all of a sudden, because I have a tendency to think about the worst case scenario, and when I think about that extreme, I feel a lot of fear, I feel uncertainty, I feel impatience, I want to control, because I'm looking for safety, because my mind is taking me to the worst case scenario where something horrible is going to happen. But it doesn't have to be that way, and that's not really true. Okay, that's our mind going. Our mind has a good intention, and the mind believes that by taking you to the worst case scenario, you are going to be more likely to prepare for it, and then you are going to be able to be ready to fight it. But the truth is that where attention goes, energy flows. So if you are always, when I find myself focusing on that extreme that is negative, and I am feeling fear, and I am feeling limitation, and I am feeling I'm not good enough, or I don't know how to do this, guess what I am going to attract more of? I'm going to attract more situations that are going to make me feel that way. If I start thinking of other possibilities, and this comes with metacognition, your ability to reflect, your ability to create space, your ability to think about how you think, to think about how you are behaving, and become that observer. And then you mix that with emotional self-regulation, your ability to find things that you can do in the present moment that will help you feel more grounded, safer, more in the now, and don't get lost in what if, what's going to happen if, worst case scenario, etc. So you are going to create separation. And then there is another executive functioning skill that is called adaptable thinking, or also called cognitive flexibility. And this is our ability to, when you are creating that space that I mentioned, using your metacognition and being grounded, at least more grounded than when you are completely lost in the emotion, you are going to have the ability to see different options, different realities that can unfold. In my case, when I am on the worst case scenario and I am there and I am feeling fear and limitation and I am being impatient and I want to control, many times my partner comes and then she starts telling me all the other possibilities that can happen. And then she goes to the opposite extreme, right? What if something amazing happens out of this? And then when I start thinking about that, I start relaxing and I start creating the capacity to see reality from a different perspective. And it is still not the truth. It's still not what's going to happen, but it's one other possibility that helps me create a different set of emotions inside of me. And from that place, I am going to create a different kind of action, a different kind of experience. That's okay, Finn. Okay. So it's very important to be aware of this, and it's very important to Finn. That's okay. Sorry, that's Finn. I think he's hearing a noise. So those are some of the skills that are really important for you to think about. And then I say, I struggle with anxiety and panic attacks, especially when decluttering and moving. I want to work on emotional regulation. Peace. Thank you for sharing these things that you are going through. And I think everything is connected to what we are talking about. And majority of the times, before we can get to the actual action, before we can use the executive functioning skills like organization, time management, transitioning, goal setting, sequencing, before we can get to that, it's very important to work on this emotional and alignment, I call it. It's important to feel aligned with what's happening. And it's important to be able to relax enough so that you accept what's happening and that you can see this experience from a different angle. Because right now, most likely, you are seeing that experience from a very frightening point of view. This is going to be bad. I don't know what to do. I feel unsafe. And then from that place, as you can imagine, you are struggling. You feel anxiety about what's to come because it's going to be bad. And then panic attacks happen when we lose ground, when we are completely lost in a reality that didn't happen yet, but in our mind, it's happening. And when that's happening, we actually feel physically the symptoms of a panic attack. We can't breathe. We have this huge knot in the stomach. We are sweating. We are completely unsafe. There are so many symptoms that you can experience when you are feeling a panic attack and when you are feeling constricted in that way. So it's important to learn that, to accept that what's happening first, and it's important to then become aware of these possibilities, because I share with you guys that there is a list of emotions. There is a scale, an emotional scale that you, when you look at it, you can see that there is fear, and you can see that there is hopelessness, and you can see that there is depression, and you can see that there are all these layers. So when you look at that list, it's really helpful to see that if you are feeling, for example, anxiety, it's very difficult to leap from anxiety all the way to happiness or all the way to safety. But maybe if you can go from feeling anxiety to feeling fear, and then from feeling fear to feeling the next available emotion to you in that moment, that's how you climb up slowly from that hole. In my experience, that's what happens. I normally don't go from feeling completely depressed, lethargic, low energy, limited, fearful. I don't go from there to feeling completely activated and happy. It's a process, right? Sometimes that process takes hours. Sometimes that process takes minutes. Sometimes that process takes weeks. sometimes even months. So it depends on your experience. Uh, it's important that you honor what's happening. It's important that you can be present with it. And it's important that from this point of view, you can look at your situation as a reflection of what you need to learn, a reflection of what needs to happen. And imagine peace, how much lighter, how much empowering it will feel for you if instead of you looking at this with the anticipation that it's going to be difficult, a struggle, bad, and you're going to be unsafe. Imagine if you can reframe it. And this is the adaptable thinking, cognitive flexibility kind of executive functioning skill. How can you change the meaning? How can you see the reality from a point of view where everything that is happening for me, to me right now, it is for me. It is happening because there is something for me to learn, because there is something that I need to change so that I can get more aligned with who I really am. And these experiences are a mirror to that so that I can take action, so that I can learn what I don't want and use that contrast to put my energy into what I do want. So many times in my experience, when I feel what you are saying, when I feel I'm struggling, when I feel I have anxiety, I am fearful, when I become conscious again, and I am not completely lost in that, I start to question, okay, what is in here for me to learn? How can I flip this? So what is it that I don't want? Well, I don't want to feel unsafe. Well, I don't want to feel limitation. Well, I don't want to X, Y, and Z. When I can really nail it, then I ask myself, so what do I want instead? And then once I define what I want instead, then I change my energy and my attention from going to what I don't want to what I want to experience. So instead of me saying, I feel stuck, I am not good enough, I don't know what to do here, I am lost, I can flip it into, I am in the process of discovering what I need. The universe is going to give me all the signs and all the steps at the right moment. Everything is going to unfold perfectly for me to learn what I need to learn. And I trust that everything is going to unfold how it needs to. So from that perspective, all of a sudden, you won't feel as much anxiety. You won't feel alone and struggling. You won't feel as much fear. Because from that perspective, you are going to understand that, well, this is just a journey. This is just an experience that you need to have so that you can evolve into a different version of yourself. And I hope that this is helpful, Peace. I know that when you are there, it's difficult to see other options. And I have been there myself many times, and I know that it's not easy to get out of there. But I know that remembering these things is very helpful. Remembering to stop and create a pause is very helpful. Remembering to what can I do right now so that I can ground myself more is very helpful. Having someone else to talk to about this is very helpful. So what you are doing here, it is moving that energy. You are being witnessed. You are sharing and verbalizing your experience. You are identifying what you don't want, what doesn't feel right with you. And now is your opportunity to flip it into the next thing. So far, looking at this situation from the executive functioning skills, again, you are using your adaptable thinking or your cognitive flexibility to be able to see reality from different points of view, to be able to be flexible and allow that uncertainty to be okay in your nervous system. You are adapting to what's happening without needing to know all the answers, without needing to know what's going to happen next. Okay. And then you are using your metacognition so that you can reflect, so that you can become the observer, so that you can think about how you can think about how you are behaving, and you can always recalibrate, realign, and change what you feel you need to change. And then you are using your emotional self-regulation, absolutely, 100%. You are also using your impulse control. Okay, impulse control is another executive functioning skill that we all have. And that is our ability to don't react. It's our ability to control the impulses that we have. And it doesn't mean that you are going to stop taking action on something that feels good to you, but you are not going to unconsciously react to everything all the time. Because if that happens, this impulse control, what's happening is that what's happening outside of us is going to dictate how we feel, and then it's going to dictate how we react instinctively, unconsciously. And the metacognition that I was talking about is your ability to create that pause so that you can activate your impulse control, so that you can take a break. And instead of you reacting by feeling something that you have always felt, that is familiar with you, you can decide what to do instead. You can create that separation so that then you can realign and you can decide to behave differently. You can decide to look at the reality differently. You can decide to make a different choice. And that is the impulse control. And again, this is not something that you activate like that with a switch. That would be amazing if we could. How it normally unfolds is it's a process. So you are feeling anxiety, you remember, and then maybe you become conscious, and then you ground yourself, and then you start doing the process. And then something will happen outside and will put you down in the hole again. And then, but eventually that process is not gonna be so unconscious. It's gonna be less and less unconscious. And you're gonna gain more and more control about it. And this is not about controlling what is happening outside, okay? This is not about you understanding the specific steps you have to take in this move. This is you, inside of you, not reacting to what's happening outside. Because from that place of you not reacting, you are going to be more grounded, you are going to be more observant, you are going to be more self-regulated. And then when you are those things, you are going to feel less fear, you are going to feel less anxiety, you are not going to get lost in the worst case scenario. And then all of a sudden you are going to start taking way more control of your own reaction, of your own body. And from that place, you can then activate other emotions. You can connect with the idea of maybe this reality is changing for a reason and it's going to be positive. Okay? So before I keep going, did I lose you guys? Is this making sense? Love that perspective shift. Yeah, yes, this makes so much sense. So peace, from this new perspective, from this new point of view that we are kind of thinking about now, how do you feel? What do you see? And what is possible from this new point of view for you? I'm just curious if you want to share. Peace says, fantastic, makes perfect sense. So do you feel lighter? Do you feel less anxiety? Do you feel that this change may be a positive change for you, even though you don't know how it's going to unfold? Do you find that there is a little bit more trust and hope? I feel hope was feeling stuck, but now have more options, feeling lighter. Yeah, amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. And this is your journey, so you know what you need. You will discover that. But we have to create the space and the time for that to happen. And when we are obsessed in something, either the best case scenario, the worst case scenario, and we are not being present, it's very difficult to see all the options. It's very difficult to allow for synchronicities to happen and for us to see them. And it's very difficult to use all the other executive functioning skills because we are not going to be aligned. We are not going to feel excited. We are not going to feel motivation. And when we don't feel aligned, we don't feel motivated, and what we are doing doesn't feel intentional and kind of balanced with us and with who we really are, that's when procrastination, self-sabotage, not being able to start tasks, experiencing attention deficit disorders, having panic attacks. There are so many things, feeling lethargic, feeling depressed. All these symptoms are because the reality is just not in sync with us, it's not aligned with us. But we have the ability to understand what we need. And we have the ability to, okay, so what's happening now is not aligned with me and it's not flowing with me. So how can I change this? What can I do? How can I change my state? How can I use my executive functioning skills differently so that this can be an enjoyable experience rather than being a struggle? And this is where it takes me to the next executive functioning skills. That if you guys want, I can list them first. And then we can maybe, if you guys want to share a specific example of your life, like Peace did, we can look at one of them and we can see how these skills are activated. So you want me, guys, to share first the skills so that you are aware of them and you remember them? Because in my case, even though I know them, even though I created a course about them, many times I have to look at them because I may forget some. I may not remember all of them. And when I do remember all of them, new ideas come, new options come to look at that reality from different points of view. So P says, yes, please. I would love to hear about executive functioning skills. Amazing. So we've talked about some already, but basically there are 14 executive functioning skills, main ones. They normally don't work independently. They are always working together and they will collapse with each other. But basically for you to kind of divide them and understand, there are executive functioning skills. There are 3 of them that will allow you to kind of manage your thoughts. And that's working memory. It's one. So your ability to remember information, your ability to recall information that you need, working memory. The next one is adaptable thinking or cognitive flexibility. That's your ability to be flexible, your ability to look at reality from different points of view. And the other one is metacognition that I've talked about a lot. Metacognition is your ability to think about how you think, to think about how you are behaving, to think about what's happening. It's your ability to reflect. It's your ability to be mindful in the moment, to be conscious, to be doing something with presence, not being lost in a rabbit hole of emotions. So you are being the observer of your experience. So that is metacognition, okay? So those 3 are the executive functioning skills that help you manage your thoughts. Working memory, adaptable thinking or cognitive flexibility, and metacognition. Then we have two other executive functioning skills that are going to help you manage your emotions, okay? So one of them is emotional self-regulation that I talked about. This is your ability to self-regulate your nervous system so that you are grounded, so that you are not so activated emotionally that you lose control and you do something that you may regret after, okay? And then another one is impulse control, also called response inhibition. And this is your ability to observe the impulses that you are feeling, but you can create that pause and you are not reacting to them unconsciously. So emotional self-regulation and impulse control are the executive functioning skills that allow you to manage your emotions. Again, these skills are working together with the ones from your thoughts, right? With working memory, adaptable thinking, metacognition. So they don't normally work independently. And we are trying to put words to things that are not isolated. But this is for you to be able to understand the concept and to observe your own life so that you can see which ones are being activated, so that you can see which ones can you nurture and how can you use them differently. And then there are a bunch of other executive functioning skills that they are going to help you manage your actions, how you behave. And this is where a lot of us are excited about learning, right? The most. And that is task initiation, attention control or focus, your ability to focus on a specific task for a long period of time, time management, task completion, organization, planning, sequencing. Sequencing is your ability to take something big and divide it into a different steps that are a sequence of steps that when you complete them, you can then complete the bigger project. So sequencing allows you to feel less overwhelmed, allows you to manage a big project better because you are dividing that project in smaller specific tasks. Then you have prioritizing. This is your ability to understand what's next and what's the most important in this specific moment. And then the last one is transitioning or shifting. And this is your ability to transition from task to task. And when you are transitioning, there are many layers of that transitioning that happen. So you are transitioning physically. So maybe you need specific things that you need to take so that you can achieve that task, and then you have to put them back. Okay, so maybe you are doing something with tools, maybe you are doing a craft, maybe you are doing a task with papers. So you're going to bring the papers to the table, you're going to do the work, and then you have to put them back. So when you transition, there is a physical transition, there can be an emotional transition, because if you are doing something, a task that is logical, and then you are going to switch to doing a task that is emotional, sometimes you have to transition. And sometimes the problem is that you don't allow yourself time to transition properly. For example, if I am doing the accounting of my business and I am sitting on the table, really focused on numbers, and then I have to go from there to being a father to my daughter, and I have to help her with something that she's having an emotional breakdown with something, as you can imagine, transitioning from being logical and looking at numbers to putting my head up and then going to my daughter and helping her understand or help her self-regulate or do whatever I need to do, and then coming back to do the numbers. As you can understand, there is a transition in there. And when we talk about multitasking, so many times it's difficult when we multitask because the transitioning is difficult, depending on what you are transitioning from and to. So there is a physical transition, there is an emotional transition, there is a mental transition, there can be a social transitioning. So as you can imagine, looking at specific situations in your life, when you are aware of this can open doors for many different approaches that you can experiment with. And for example, with my daughter, I know by experience that I am not going to attempt to do a logical task that requires my full concentration when I am taking care of her, unless I put shows, a movie, or I set her up with enough activities and I know that she's going to be self-oriented, she's going to take care of herself. And now I understand what that is. I understand what she likes, and I understand how much time I have. But that is a learning curve. At the beginning, it was a disaster because I didn't know how to do it. As I learned, I now understand, oh, I have a live session and I have her. No problem. I know how to do it because I know how to transition her. I know how to transition myself. I know how to use all these skills to my advantage. Okay? So now I would like to open the floor for questions. If you have a specific area in your life that you would like to explore, how these executive functioning skills are playing and how can we look at them differently, this is your opportunity to maybe share or ask a question if you want. And I always say the same thing. One thing is the theory of these executive functioning skills, and another different thing is to actually take up a real moment of your life that you can share and then learn from there. Because life is a moment-to-moment experience, and it's precious for you to start applying things from real moments from your life so that you can make real change in the things that your journey is inviting you to change. Okay? So Peace says, can you repeat the list for managing behaviors, actions? Peace, absolutely. Task initiation, attention control, time management, task completion, organization, planning, sequencing, prioritizing, and transitioning or shifting. Okay? And don't get lost in how many skills are there, because it's normal to don't remember them all at the beginning. I do have a full course on executive functioning skills that you can take. I also have lots of past episodes, past live sessions about executive functioning skills, and I do cover each of them like individually. So it's very important to understand that this is a process. If you are new to this, it's normal that it takes time. And also the invitation and what I do in the course is I invite you to explore one executive functioning skill, and then we do a meditation visualization where I guide you into your real life and I guide you into a past experience that is present for you. And then we try to feel that past experience, we try to understand what happened, and then from that new point of view and understanding this new executive functioning skill, I invite you to visualize yourself behaving differently. And basically what we are doing is we are rehearsing a new way of being in that experience that happened to you. And you are taking that experience and using it as a scenario for you to understand, how can I behave differently here? What can I do to support myself in this situation if it repeats, or a similar situation? And then when you do this, I promise you that your brain is starting to understand a new way. When you rehearse in your mind, when a real situation similar to that happens, you are more equipped. It is proven that when you rehearse in your brain something, by visualizing yourself doing something or learning something, real change happens and you are actually making new connections in your brain. It's actually, there is active new connections, neural connections happening in your brain, and you may not be doing physically the activity, but you are visualizing yourself doing it. So that's why it's so important to understand that there are so many ways that you can rehearse, you can practice, and you can become better and more aligned without only having to struggle through real experiences. Okay? So yeah, thank you, Peace. And does anyone else have questions or a specific example of their own lives that they would like to share? This is your opportunity. And it's important that you reflect about this, because you are in this session for a reason. You came here because you felt inspired. You came here because you were curious. You came here with an intention. Maybe it's an unconscious intention, but the fact that you are here proves that there is something in here for you. And the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. That is how it works. So the more you can reflect about your life, the more you can become aware of how you function, the more you can align yourself better in your day-to-day life, unless you feel fully aligned. Because if that's your experience, then that's amazing. So Peace says, in my life, I avoid tasks. Impulse control and emotional self-regulation are going to be important. Yeah, so Peace, it's funny that you share that, because I also have a course about procrastination. Procrastination is actually avoiding tasks, right? And there are so many layers that are playing into us procrastinating something. And in the course, I share a lot of different layers to procrastination and how they tied up with executive functioning skills. But many times, some of the skills that are really important when you are looking at avoiding tasks or procrastination are task initiation, task completion, sequencing. Those are very important steps because task initiation is your ability to be able to initiate a task. Okay. And when you are trying to initiate a task, and maybe you have a specific example of what is one task that you are avoiding, if you are willing to share. And we can use something real for you. Jaslyn says, yeah, me too, peace. Guys, me too. I notice and can observe myself many times procrastinating things. Sometimes that procrastination is working for me, and sometimes that procrastination is an invitation for me to look at why am I feeling this way? Why am I not fully excited about what I'm about to do? And what do I need to change or tweak or realign with so that what I'm doing feels fully aligned with myself? Yeah, P says procrastination and perfectionism are a struggle for me. Yeah. Can you describe examples of task initiation? I avoid going to the condo to pack, clean, and move boxes. Yeah, so please, let's take that specific example, okay? So you are avoiding going to the condo because you have to pack, you have to clean, and you have to move boxes, okay? So as you are saying this, I feel overwhelmed, okay? Because it's a big task. And we are not just dealing with physical items. As you know, you are dealing with physical, you are dealing with all the emotional attachment, all the emotions that are going to be triggered by the items that you are going to be dealing with. Okay, so there are many different layers here. And also there is a mental layer. Like, where do I start? What is the first step? What is the second step? So let's break this down and let's look at this from the task initiation. So task initiation is your ability, in this case, to show up, to go to the condo and get started doing the task that you want to do. What happens when you are struggling initiating a task? Majority of the times, it is because that task, it's either too big, maybe you don't understand how to do it, maybe it's very emotionally draining or emotionally charging for you to do that task. So I am going to bring a couple other skills so that you understand. So task initiation is you not being able to initiate a task or you being able to initiate a task. Task completion is your ability to complete a task, okay? But that task can be, I'm going to pack my condo, and as you can imagine, that is a very big task. The completing a task can be, I am going to enter my condo and I am going to bring the boxes I bought and put them on the entryway. That is my task. So I want to complete that. So I ask you, please, if I tell you that your task is to take 5 boxes and bring them to the condo and leave them on the hallway, how likely are you to initiate and complete that task? How overwhelmed are you feeling about that specific task? In my case, I feel relief. I feel I can do that. I understand what I'm doing. So there is a part of me that feels excited because I already know that I can accomplish that task. I already know that I have enough time. I already know that it's going to help me move forward. It's not the whole project, but it's one more task. It's one more step. And if you keep taking steps, all of a sudden you are going to have an easier time to initiate and complete. Okay? So task initiation can also be time bound. Instead of you defining the task at hand, I need to complete this, you can use a timer and say, I am going to spend 20 minutes. I am going to spend 10 minutes. I am going to spend 5 minutes. And that is my task. I'm going to show up for 5 minutes. And then that will be completed. So that's another way for you to initiate and complete tasks differently, in a way that feels better for you, in a way that you can accomplish. Because what happens when you don't initiate a task and you don't complete a task? Like, how do you feel about yourself? How confident do you feel? How inspired and motivated do you feel when the reality is proving to you that you are not enough, that you are not doing it right, that you're not winning? So that is going to accentuate your procrastination, your avoiding. What's going to happen if you can accomplish a specific task and you can actually tick it, and then you feel, oh, I have accomplished that task? That's going to give you motivation. That's going to give you inspiration, motivation. You're going to feel more confident. And then when you keep doing them, you're going to be able to do it more and more and more. Okay? So task initiation, task completion, they go hand in hand, and there is a huge impact on the meaning, on the definition of that task. It's very important to define the task in a way that is, have you guys heard of the acronym of SMART goals? Have you guys heard of SMART goals? That they are specific, they are measurable, they are attainable, they are relevant, and they are time bound. So this lies really well with executive functioning skills. When you are creating a SMART goal, you are actually making sure that the task initiation, that the task completion, that the sequencing that you are creating, that the prioritization that you are creating, it's enough, right? It's the right way. So exactly, avoidance makes me feel like a failure. And when we feel like a failure, like what is the state of being? And from that place of feeling like a failure, like, how are we going to approach life? How are we going to show up with others? How are we going to show up to that project? It's not going to help us show up better. It doesn't feel aligned. That's why it's important to find ways to rediscover, how can I approach this on a different way? And executive functioning skills are going to help you do that. I would like to also mention a piece, and this happens to me so many times when I was helping people in the process of decluttering their homes. I can tell you how many times I have gone to a space that was very cluttered, and I started feeling overwhelmed in my body. And I'm not talking just being me, myself. It was myself, it was my partner, Samantha, and it was the client. So even though there were three of us, even though my partner and I are professionals doing this, and we have done this for many years, and we have helped many, many people in real life in their homes, I was feeling overwhelmed. And when I was feeling that, I learned how to let go. I learned how to stop trying to understand the whole project and how it needs to happen. And I learned how to connect with the space, how to connect with myself, how to connect, if you believe it or not, with my higher self, with my guardian angels, however you want to call them, with the universe, and how to ask for help, and how to breathe through that overwhelm and just look for the next available step. Okay? So I have no idea what to do here. I am feeling overwhelmed. I feel frozen. I don't want to go to the client and tell him or her how I'm feeling. And I don't want even Samantha to know how I am feeling. So what can I do? And then I realized, like, oh, Emilio, you are trying to do it your way. You are trying to know everything. You are trying to look at a massive project that is very emotional, and the emotions are not yours. The emotions are from the client, and you are trying to be better than anyone else and know everything right now. And that's not how it's gonna go. So when I was able to honor the process, and I was able to trust, and I was able to look and say, what is the next available step for me? Okay, I'm seeing some papers there. Okay, I'm gonna group the papers together, because I know that paper is not something I do at the beginning. So I start putting the papers together. I look, okay, what is the next? I see a lot of clothes that maybe if I pile them together in that corner, that will alleviate a little bit of space. So I will just pile all the clothes there. What is the next available step? Maybe Samantha is talking with the client and they have recognized that there is a lot of emotional attachment to paper and there is not any emotional attachment to books, for example, or to clothes. So that will make me feel, oh yeah, so let's do clothes next. That feels right. That feels aligned with me. That feels that is the right step in this moment for me and for the client and for everyone. So I will grab all the clothes and I will just bring them to the table. And Samantha will work through the clothes because we know that she's not or he's not emotionally attached to clothes, but he or she is attached to papers. So as you can imagine, this is an ongoing process. I trust that it's going to unfold perfectly. I trust that I'm not alone doing this. I trust that I have guidance. I trust that if I self-ground myself, if my job is to stay in the moment, my job is to breathe, my job is to have the intention that I want to be there in service. It's not an ego thing that I want to make this space better. No, I want to be in service of this person that needs help from me. How can I do that? And I want to receive guidance. I don't have to do it alone. So what I'm trying to say here is that sometimes we are trying to approach a big project with logic, and we try to only use logic to create a step-by-step that hopefully is going to make that project happen as fast as possible. And what I'm trying to say here is that sometimes that's true, and sometimes that is not how it happens. Sometimes that is not the best approach. And this is very difficult for some to understand. It's not logical, it's not scientifical, it's not something that you can prove. But from my experience, I have been there so many times to know that there is something else happening that is not happening in my head, that there is a master plan that is not in my head and I don't understand, but I am guided through. So in your situation, peace, maybe you don't have to have all the answers right now. Maybe when you enter that apartment, that condo, you don't need to know specifically everything that you have to do. Maybe you just have to be present. Maybe you just have to be honest. What's happening right now? How am I feeling? And what do I sense? What is my intuition telling me that the next step should be? And then you follow that impulse. And then something else will show up and then you follow that impulse. And then something else will show up and then you follow that impulse. And you know what happens every time we help someone now? People always say the same thing. I can't believe how everything unfolded so magically. I just can't believe it. And we tell them like, well, we didn't bring a plan for that to happen that way. we were just present with you and with the space and with what needed to happen. So there is place and space for the logic, and there is a place and space for the emotions, and there is a place and space for trusting in the unknown, trusting in the uncertainty, and knowing that when uncertainty and unknown are happening, true change is happening. Because if there is not unknown, if there is not something unfamiliar, if there is not something that is uncertain that you don't know about, is change really happening? Or are we just repeating more of the same? And this is the importance of creating a good relationship with the unknown, okay, with the uncertainty. We don't need to know everything. When I know something, when I am predicting something, when I am doing something that is familiar, I'm not changing anything. Is the same Emilio doing something familiar that he knows, or is the same Emilio predicting what the future is going to look like with my mind? And then how much space am I allowing there for something new to unfold? When I am there, I'm not trusting. I am not being fully present. I am not letting go of things because I'm afraid. When I can let go, when I can trust, when I can really step into that unknown, knowing that it's going to unfold how it needs to. I don't have to have all the answers. My only job is to keep showing up one step at a time with as much presence as I can and do the best I can in every moment. And then when you are feeling that, you can use these executive functioning skills with way more intention. When you are feeling that way, you are more grounded. When you are feeling this way, you are more self-regulated. When you are feeling more self-regulated and more grounded, you are not feeling so unsafe. You don't have to control as much. And when you don't feel so unsafe and you don't have to control as much, you're going to have an easier time understanding what needs to happen here. How can I be in service of this process? What is the most aligned action I can take right now? And you just allow time and space to guide you into the next thing. And I hope that makes sense. I hope that this helps you in your journey piece, because you were brave enough to share and to really be vulnerable. And that is the first step, being able to talk, being able to identify, being able to be seen in your experience. When you can do that, you are more willing, more curious, more flexible. You are more, let's see what can happen here. And you are more trusting. So yeah, those are some of the things, and how executive functioning skills can help you with this situation. And also how sometimes trying to use just the logic is just not enough. And I am preparing a series of live sessions and episodes where I am going to be bringing quantum physics, the laws of the universe, the law of attraction, and all these kind of abstract things. And I'm going to be bringing them into the space, and we are going to be doing one live about every specific thing. So I think I have some titles in mind, but it's going to be called Quantum Decluttering and Quantum Self-Care and Quantum Time Management. And we're going to be exploring the reality from a different point of view. And I am going to try my best to make it practical, to share my real life examples and what I have witnessed, and also to challenge what we have always done, and myself included. I will look at my courses and say, okay, I created these courses from this point of view. Now I want to spice them up by looking at these concepts from this point of view, and then see how we can use them in our day-to-day life in a practical way that maybe we have never used before, maybe we have never even thought of before. And that is going to plant seeds. And I'm very excited about this, and that's why I want to share it, because I'm trying to follow my excitement. I am trying to follow what feels good, what feels aligned. And when I was trying to create that series, I was feeling overwhelmed. And I know that the next step is to just start with the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And I don't have to have all the answers. I don't need to have all the information right now. And this is another example of using executive functioning skills to overcome procrastination, overcome self-sabotage, overcome the idea, I'm not good enough. Who are you to talk about this? What are people going to think about you? Blah, blah, blah. So this is okay, I'm going to self-regulate. Okay, I'm going to use my cognitive flexibility to think about different angles. Okay, I'm going to use my task initiation. Okay, I'm having a hard time initiating this task. Why? Okay, I'm going to sequence this project in smaller. My job today is not to create the series. My job today is to just come up with a title for the next one. And that becomes, oh, I can do that. Okay, I do that. I initiate the task. I complete the task. And then I feel more empowered. And then I just keep going. And that's how you can overcome procrastination, and you can go from feeling stuck and frozen to feeling empowered and feeling more guided and feeling more trusting, feeling more aligned. and understanding that we are always in the process of getting more aligned, and life is always changing. So we are always going to be realigning. And if we can accept that, all of a sudden change is no longer a struggle, because we know it's going to always be change. And we know that the only thing that doesn't change is you, the you inside of you. That's going to always be there, regardless of what's happening outside of you, regardless of the people around you, regardless of what you do or don't do. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for being here today. Emilio, thank you so much for all your help and encouragement. Peace. I really wish and hope, and I'm sending energy to you, to be able to open that condo and be able to step in there with a brand new energy, to be able to be present with whatever needs to happen, and to ask for the help that you need in the way that you can receive it, and to get inspired and excited about what's to come for you. I hope that you can go there and you can feel that you deserve that for yourself, and that what's happening is not a struggle, it's not bad, it's actually a gift from the universe in a way that maybe you don't understand now, but in a way that you are going to see unfolding, and it's going to be magical. And you just have to trust and just keep taking steps one after the other, and just keep showing up and keep processing and keep being present with what's happening. Okay? Yeah, I lovingly accept your amazing energy. Yeah, there it goes for you. Guys, happy Halloween. I hope that you guys have an amazing Halloween, whatever you are planning on doing. I am going with my daughter to do some walks around to get some treats, and yeah, have a great time, all of you. And I can't wait to share these next sessions that I'm working on. I'm very, very excited about them, and you will learn more about them shortly. Okay? This is a gift to be a part of this life today. I am on my way to our storage to clear and move to a new location. I now feel empowered to be present, aligned, and guided and supported. Renee, amazing. Remember that when you are steering all the physical stuff, you are removing, realigning, transforming a lot of energy in yourself, in your sphere. So just keep that in mind. It's not just physical. It's very, very powerful. Amazing, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next week. And until then, I send you quantum energy for you to be able to use these executive functioning skills and your intuition to keep making progress and change and realigning in your life. Okay? See you soon.